And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Train me like an animal. Better keep your eye on my every move. There's no need to be so damn cruel. Baby, you got nothing to prove. I'm no fool, no, I'm not a follower. I don't take things as they come if they bring me down. Life can be cruel if you're a dreamer. I just wanna have some fun. Don't tell me what could be done. You know you like it, but it drives you insane. You know you like it, but it drives you insane. You know you like it, but you're scared of the shame. What you want, what you gonna do? You know you like it, but it drives you insane. Only because you know that you wanna feel the same. You know you like it, but it drives you insane. What you want, what you gonna do?
Hey, Al. Paul here, but you know that. Hey, listen. Congratulations, man, on getting this great award from Pensado's Place.
And welcome to our Tech Talk with Pensado's Place. I'd like to introduce you guys to Dave Pensado and Herb Trawick.
Hey.
I'm sure you probably read the speakers' bios, but I'll go through them again just for our own edification. Again, Dave is one of the recording industry's preeminent mix engineers with multiple Grammys. Christina Aguilera, Pink, Shakira, Frank Ocean, on and on. Dave's special niche is making radio-friendly records while enhancing artistic intent. Herb is the creator and executive producer of Pensado's Place. Seen in 204 countries, and as you just saw, is like one of our hottest properties with respect to YouTube. And without further ado, I'd like to hand the floor to those guys.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thank you, Les. Thank you much. Can you guys hear? Can anybody hear? Well, thank you for having us. We have had this improbable journey that started, we're in our 6th year, 270, how many guys, 275, 76, some number of episodes, which Dave and I as old guys have not missed an episode. That's a lot of, the same hourly show that you may watch could be.
There's a couple I was there, but I didn't miss.
And there's a couple I almost passed out on, and you saved me, but that's another story. The thing is that Dave was an audio engineer and I was a manager. And in my management career, and I've managed different artists and ran different record labels and other kinds of things. What we were not broadcasters. And when this opportunity came up, which came out of a medical incident, we sort of threw a digital Hail Mary. We knew nothing about it. And the opportunity came up and we just sort of took it and ran. So what we often tell young folks is, as a sports metaphor, we will dunk on you. as old dudes, we will just take you to the hole and slam. And if you won't get it up and bring it and you knock us down, we'll take you back to the hole and dunk on you, because the inspiring thing for us is to be amongst such brilliance, such game-changing paradigm that goes on in this campus, and the fact that people like us, and like when Les called us, we were like, does anybody even know who the hell we are? Like we're still a little bit gobsmacked at all the stuff that's going on with us. So this was a big deal for us, and
Very big deal.
And the Google team, Les and Travis and Jonathan and all the folks we had a great time yesterday. It was just amazing. So what Dave and I have been talking about for the last 6 months is, we got to be smart. we got to say something that's relevant.
So we decided not to come at that point.
Yeah. So we put some jokes together, and we're going to share them with you. Then we're going to go from.
I was told that Google people don't laugh much, so I didn't do my new joke.
But that's actually true. We met with some people who worked with us before, who've worked with you guys. It was like, they're very serious-minded, and we were like,
But this group looks pretty
can I
cool.
swear? Can I swear even slightly? There's no children. Nobody will be harmed. So anyways, when we heard that, we basically said, fuck that. We'll just do kind of what we do. So I think when we were having a conversation and the Google team asked us for a topic, let me digress really quickly. You all are invited to the award show.
Yeah.
So we actually have some Google tables set aside. It's a fun night where if you care about audio, if you're slightly related, if you like music, even if you don't, we have tried to create, we pay attention to the shared economy context of where you guys work and live. And so what we try to do is bring the community together and have moments. Actually, Dave and I are not a big part of the award show. We actually only come out once and toward the end, because it's really for you guys. But we probably have our largest.
Something here?
Oh, sure. I like when you hold my hand.
We're not a big part during the show, but prior to the show, Herb is the show, and he's a major part of the show.
Oh, well, I don't know
and he
about
has
all that.
the doctor's bills to prove it.
Well,
Get that in. We are part of the show, but not on the night. Him mostly.
So the fun part is I think this year we've had the largest sign-up of VIPs we've had in 3 years. In our second year, we became the largest award show in the pro audio space and kind of beat the award show that's been around for 31 years. Our intention wasn't to beat them. Well, we're competitive, to say the least. Gently, nicely.
Sometimes.
But we like winning. But the point of it is that it's a place where it's really your show, and you'll see a lot of bad people. You'll see 1,500 or nothing, and you'll see the guy who did Hello, and you'll see Katy Perry's producer, and you'll see Kendrick Lamar's person, and you can hang with them afterwards and spend time, and it's a blast. And you all get in for free. We only charge $50. It's on the Sony movie lot. It's a great night out. Get in a Google bus, come down, make sure Google's on the side of the bus so we can take photos of the chat and do social media. So you all really are invited. Lastly, before we start, the notion of potential partnerships that happen because of music, what we have learned, have just become legion and ever-reaching. Oftentimes in our talks, we will say that music is kind of like the really overused prostitute on the street, because people keep finding ways to use the orifices of music over and over and over and over and over. And oftentimes the music creator doesn't get any benefit. They don't get the orgasm, but everybody else gets the win. It's just true. I hate to make it so candid, but if you think about it, use music to sell things, use music to connect things, use music to communicate, use music. So there is some issues about music creators who put that stuff up and then can't win from it. Now, we're not coming being advocates for that and saying, oh, wrong, wrong, wrong. We're saying we're in a paradigm shift and we're still working things out and how all that works. So what we thought we would try to do when this Hail Mary came up was to create a place that online was a community. And what we tried to do, and this is what our talk was going to be about, and the point I was alluding to, when they asked for a topic, I came back and said, why don't we talk about the humanity in digital and why that's important. So if we can go down that path for a little bit, then we'll open up for some questions. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
Dave, fire away.
When I was thinking about what to talk to you guys about, I started kind kind of reviewing some of the processes that got me to where I am today, and I realized that humbly, you and I have a lot in common. We both deal with data, we both deal with process, we both try to turn data into information. I still think of myself as a bit of a failed guitar player as opposed to a successful engineer. I don't know what that means, but just had to throw that out there because I love guitar. The process I go through is an artist, a producer, a record company, maybe a management company will give me a bunch of information in the form of a guitar track, a vocal, bass track, drums, and then it's my job to take that and convert it into something that hopefully millions of people will want to buy, and so doing, create wealth for the artist, and the better I do that, the more money I make. I'm a little different in that I like to inject a little bit of my own creativity and art into everything I do, sometimes arrogantly, sometimes because it needs it, but most of the time because I just like doing it that way. So essentially, it boils down to what I'm selling is my taste, and that can be a little bit frightening, but I don't know how else to work. So I sit in a room alone usually. I hate working alone, but a lot of times, I guess of the 30 or 40 number one records I've had, maybe only 3 or 4 times somebody showed up. I hate that because we're making records for millions of people and it's affecting that artist's career, but they don't show up. That feels a little weird, but that's another discussion. But in a sense, technology is used for improving the experience, the usability, the accessibility, the pleasure between the user and the product. And gosh, that's exactly what I do. I was noticing before I came in today, I started counting the number of CPUs that I use in the course of an average day, and it's way over 20, probably some days 30 or 40. Everything I use now has a processor, so I've always loved computers. I've always been using them. I got thrown out of Clemson because I was using a computer. This was in the late 60s, early 70s. We had a geology problem where we had to determine a mineral by analyzing X-ray data. I mean, it took like 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm sitting next to this thing about the size of this room with punch cards. I can't remember if it was Fortran or COBOL, so I wrote a little program that would do it for me in just a few seconds. The execution took me about a day and a half to write the program. That's not what I got thrown out of school for. I got thrown out of school because I was selling the results to other students.
With weed. No, wow. just teasing.
Anyway, long story short, I happened to be very close to the daughter of a very prominent senator in South Carolina. He got me back in school with a letter of accommodation. So, the moral of that story is...
Yeah, what is the moral of that story? I'm curious.
Have sex with people in power.
That makes sense. I knew that was it, but...
I invoke the Google model, do no evil, so treat me nice, okay? Because I'm going to go down a path that I'm pretty sure you guys are better prepared for than me to articulate, but I thought I'd give it a try. I do have some science degrees, so I'm not complete neophyte to the process, but technology can be thought of as a subset of physics, and physics can be thought of as a subset of science. And all the great scientific minds and all the great, in my mind, discoveries were a combination not just of a scientific mind, but a scientific mind that could take the data and manipulate it through a creative process. So knowledge can only progress when it's challenged and tested. And thinking about some historical figures to illustrate that, one of my heroes that you might be surprised is Max Planck. You all know Max, and he was the quintessential painter, musician, loved literature, tiny bit athletic, which is unusual for us, and also looked at a lot of the same data that other scientists had looked at, but he came away with an explanation of photons in such an elegant way, and I'm going to emphasize the word elegant a little bit today, that we got quantum mechanics. And it could be argued that without Max and maybe Niels Bohr and a couple of other people, we wouldn't have quantum. And I love quantum mechanics because, to me, I have a curiosity about the world around me, and I use my religious beliefs a little bit, and I use my scientific beliefs a little bit to explain that world around me. And I'm a very confused individual because of that. But one of the things that a lot of these people have in common, I guess you could call them deists at the least, like if you look at Charles Darwin, everybody saw gradations in the fossil record. No one ever thought to connect it in a more elegant way. And then you look at, say, Wagner. Every child looked at a globe or a map of the world, and you saw South America and you saw Africa, and you went, wow, they fit together, right? Well, if they at one time were together and now they're apart, that's continental drift. And Wagner kind of delineated that around the early 1900s, but I'm a geology nut. But it took 50 years later before people acknowledged continental drift, which later led to the concept of plate tectonics. 50 years to just agree that come on. I think that's mind-boggling. And then we got guys like, in music, guys like Les Paul, Rupert Neve. Everybody has the ability to design electronic circuits, and we all use the same electrons, but they just did it more elegantly. And those are also heroes. And last but not least, the old granddad, Newton, probably the greatest scientist to have ever lived. And how hard does it take? Wow, something happened there. Gravity. I mean, it took that long for somebody to describe that, but there's something necessary about us that I think we need to incorporate and look at the world as a whole. I think separating physics from chemistry, from literature, from art is a crime that should be abolished, and we can thank Aristotle for that. Before Aristotle, we just looked at the world as a unit, and we didn't separate math out, we didn't separate all these other things out. So when you study these things separately, with separate professors in separate rooms and separate educations, you can't get a connectivity for how they relate. So I heard somebody the other day talking about, derivatives and integrals are useless. Well, no, they're not. They're not supposed to be separate from everything. They're supposed to be integrated into the process of our understanding of the world. And then we need to also integrate some of the great minds that aren't scientists, like T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. Integrate those people into our concept of the world. A little bit of theology. Can I get an amen? Amen. So, I think that at some point I would ask myself, well, how can I think I have a tiny little gift for creativity. How can I enhance that? Well, the way you enhance it is by an experience with a master artist or someone in the arts that has already gotten to where you want to be, and that will awaken that little seed in you and fertilize it and nurture it. And the only way you get exposed to those people is going to museums, going to the library virtually, and hearing what they have to say. And understand, please, creativity cannot be made. Don't be evil. Creativity cannot be made, it can only be received. So in order to receive it, you have to get it from the great masters. You already have it in you, but in order for it to grow, you have to receive it. And in order to receive it, that requires an action on your part. It's not going to come free. There's a philosopher named Lewis Hyde, and I'm going to beg your forgiveness. I'm going to read this because I thought it was important. Anyone who thinks they're self-made hides the reciprocal truth from themselves that we owe a debt that we made ourselves. We owe a debt to the world around us. We owe a debt to our community. We owe a debt to our forefathers, the ancients, nature, and the gods. And if you understand that debt, try and pay it back by usurping some of the creative skills that they had and nurtured. I think we can avoid the singularity and make Ray Kurzweil wrong that it's going to happen in 2045. And I think that'd be a good goal to do. Thanks, guys.
All right. You feel good?
That was pretty good.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Thanks for playing along. Let me put a couple footnotes real quick, Herb. My intention today was not to give you facts or to have you look up facts. My intention was to respectfully show that I've had a little bit of a head start on you in life, and some of these things I wish I'd accomplished myself. I love science. I think of myself as a scientist, and I missed out on a couple of opportunities because of looking down on some of these other things that we talked about today. Please check it out, okay?
Thank you for that. I think you just called yourself old, but that's another story. We'll get to that.
Age is just a number.
Did anybody, is it my turn?
The singularity, Herb.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to be singular. I want to widen the lens a little bit, and from the pop culture point of view, I think we often think of cultural things as separate boxes. And in my view, they're not. If you take music, books, movie, games, radio, content, media, the tools and specificity and the like, they may be different, but the goal is the same. And the goal ultimately is to move people. And the notion of this humanity and digital thing is where we live in the intersection I want to talk about a little bit. In our talks, I often tell people that, because we have the only music online show that doesn't use music. Ultimately, because our biggest platform will shut down real music we use. But we won't talk about that now because we don't want to offend. But I had to figure out a workaround about how to have a music show that actually didn't utilize music. That said, we tell people all the time that it is a great privilege to be to be a steward of pop culture. It's a huge responsibility that you have when you can move people en masse. And a lot of people don't take it seriously. And it can become abusive, and you can do things to people, and you can offend people, and you can affect children, affect women, lots of kinds of things. You have to take that responsibility really seriously. That's the way I was raised. And when you know that it can be used for tremendous good, all of a sudden the possibilities open up. A lot of you guys are stewards of the tech world. And respectfully, as big as pop culture is, and as important it is, being stewards of the tech world is just game-changing. It's paradigm shifting. It is global. You are changing things and affecting things for the rest of the world. That's why this company's so big, and there's so many of them that are so big. And that weight, who knows who out here has in their hands the next thing, and that thing really shifts it in amazing, amazing ways. So when you think about that the power you've been given by your own study, discipline, gifts, brilliance, opportunity, who cares how you got here? It's what you do with it. And when you think about it in that context, it is massive. The idea that you have tectonic shifts ability right in your brains. I gave a commencement speech to a school. I was trying to think about what to talk about, and I came up with something called the short path. And when they introduced me and read off my resume, my first reaction was, God, whoever they're talking about is old as shit. Like, he did this, and then he did that and this, and then he moved to here, and he did that, and he did this. And I was like, hey, when did this guy start? Like the 1600s? And so my point to the students were that the guy that was introduced had to go through all these evolutions and move around and go to New York and do this and become that and be a director of this and all this kind of stuff. But today, the power they have from the short path was really from here to your fingertips. From here to your fingertips, you can change the world. You can radicalize people to do harm. You can create Arab Spring. You can get people elected, not elected. You can change medicine, farming. You can do just from what you get to your brain into your computer. You ain't got to run all around the country. You don't have to put the 30 years of the resume they read of that guy, which was me running around doing what I had to do at that time. The time has shifted. The efficiencies, which you guys focus on, are massive and incredible. And you're continuing to push them. When Les drove us around X, and I know I'm not supposed to talk about X a lot, and we were going, okay, don't look in the windows, don't look in the windows, see the bubble cars with the hat, but that's about it. I know that stuff is going on in that building that is game-changing. Game-changing. Think about that power. It is absolutely amazing. And to Dave and I, and what we sort of espouse in Pensado's Place, the reason Pensado's Place works, in my view, I got a lot to do with it, as does Dave, is I was able to take a gold standard brand in audio and then quickly, but here's what a lot of people don't understand, is then I quickly made it not his show. It's Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So Chongor over there, who does Corner Office, he has his own set of fans. Dave has his own set of fans. I have my own set of fans. Our producer has her own set of fans, because if anybody knows my management style, I promote everybody heavily because you create a community that way. And that community becomes much bigger than saying, here's one thing, and there's not another thing. Why not be all the things you can be? That's what technology does. We actually stupidly said to people very early on, which turned out to be very smart, we want no forums. Because if you're an ass, I was going to use a phallic word, but I decided to clean myself up. If you're an ass, you got plenty of places to go be a troll. Go complain. Why don't you come to our spot and be a good citizen? And we'll try to address the grievances you have or the issues you have, but let's do it in a way where there's civility. That's a humanity move that we stuck into digital. And then we're amazed that 275 episodes, 204 countries, 600,000 people, we get very little negative information. Surprisingly negative information. And if anything, it's about the guest didn't go far enough on a technical thing, or we wanted to do more. It's never, you guys are assholes and jerks like that. We didn't know better not to bring our analog humanity, the way we were raised as people, to this digital platform. And people have responded. So we find that it always works. Let's talk about music for a second. It's a great example. At the end of the day, the tools, the gear, the plugins, the knowledge, the delivery system, the algorithms to do everything from recording to mastering, the only one thing matters is that it touches you and moves you. At the end of the day, it's got to touch you and move you. If you're making love to Marvin Gaye and he's singing "Let's Get It On," you're not thinking, did he do that on 1147? Did he use parallel compression? Jesus, Marvin was just so, when you listen, he did do it while he was making love. When you listen to Imagine Dragons' Radioactive, when you're moving to that, you're not busy analyzing that at that point in time, even as audio people. But certainly the consumer isn't. What makes that happen is you're touched. There's an emotional response. And you have to be involved in your emotional center to get to that emotional response in everything you do. Because if you don't, you can get everything connected, but still be disconnected. There's a lot of that going on, and I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. When you hear a drop in EDM, any EDM fans in here? Okay, I see. Yeah, cool. Own it now. Don't do like that. Put your shit up. There you go, my man. That's exactly right. When you hear a drop in EDM, that's designed to move you. That's not designed to have you think technically. That's designed to drive your ass crazy. And they enhance it with lights and stuff like that. I come from the management side of show business, so I spent a lot of my career trying to figure out how to have my clients touch you in whatever way, making a record, branding, concerts, and so on. So a Pensado live event has all the stuff that record things work. And my team can tell you, if they can't handle it, get out. Because our job in our live events is to touch you. Beyond, I'll get information, and we do a lot of extra stuff in our live events. Most of our teaching live events, we give away $25,000 to $30,000 worth of gear to people who can't have it. We give away scholarships. All of our live events are free except for the award show. And the award show is a whopping, look out, makes Dave and I rich, $50 a ticket. $50 a ticket. And frankly, our award show, candidly, a little giveaway, We try to make sure the enthusiasts, because we don't want to call anybody amateurs, because you're not necessarily an amateur, because you're not mixing Imagine Dragons. You might be working in your church, you might be working up here, you might be working at a radio station. You're a pro. You're not an amateur because you're not mixing big records. Anyways, our award show is generally about a couple hundred people are enthusiasts and about 500 or 600 are just VIPs who want to be part of the community. So we don't do it in such a way. We have a different kind of monetization model because we think, well, you get more from being in the community and hang around. And what we always measure it by is after our live events, everybody hangs out. They want to meet everybody. They want to talk to everybody. We tell all of our VIPs, don't come unless you're going to spend time and share. Don't come be the monkey in the thing where everybody just looks at you and then you walk off and you're the hot guy and you can't. CLA, you need to hang with the enthusiasts because you're going to change a life. Speaking of humanity and digital, we found very early on in our show, we've had between 8 and 10 emails where people use the show to not commit suicide. Now, exactly, that's what Dave and I look like. We called each other and said, oh, whoa, wait. We got a really serious thing here. We can be frivolous, but we can't be stupid about it. Because when somebody tells you I had a gun, it was right here, but you made me laugh. So I decided to fight another day. It makes you straighten up. That's the humanity part of the digital connection that had a significant impact on somebody. So it isn't about just being connected. Our competition often comes to us and says, it's really crazy. We've both gotten calls, and oftentimes, because I'm a business guy and all that kind of stuff, they'll say, can we have lunch? And I'll say, yeah, sure, we want to talk about. Well, we want to talk about how to create a show that will beat yours.
They don't say it quite like that, but
well,
that's what they mean.
Well, no, they do say it like that.
Really?
Yeah, and I take them to lunch. And I say, okay, well, tell me what you want to do. And they'll tell me, and I say, okay, all right, well. And then I'll go through the detail that we do with our show, just like the detail you guys do in your worlds and the detail that all you guys do in the tech world. And they just go, oh. And it starts to dawn on them how serious it is and how much work it is. And I'm a detail psycho. Anybody on my team, if you're not in detail, out. It all looks sort of occasional. None of it is. None. Very, very, very little is left to chance. The only thing that's sort of left to chance is how we interact. Because what you also are seeing a bromance on air. That's how Dave and I are all the time. That is what connects. There's a lot of other detail behind it, and I think that's the world we live in. So you get those kind of lessons, and you go, whoa, I need to really focus here and make sure this makes sense. At your Google store yesterday, I had an amazing sort of experience. So my team's running around, and I'm trying to hide my credit cards because I know they're going to come back and say, hey, can I buy this? I'm like, no, you buy it. I don't want to pay for it. So you had a guy who was working on the, like the portable electric stuff, portable, the personal speakers and the other thing. He's at a little table. And he was playing like the Eagles. And I was mouthing the words. I like the Eagles. And he saw somebody who dug hair bands. And those and man, me and him just locked in on these bands, and it was amazing the kind of conversations we were having because we connected on the humanity of the music, not the technology at all. And he started telling me about shows he went to with his wife, but it's just more and more emphasis of why that stuff really matters. We had maybe our best show ever, in our opinion, last week. Possibly.
Yeah, top 5.
Top 5 for sure. And it was an Oscar winner who won an Oscar for the sound design he did on Mad Max. His name is Mark Mangini. The fascinating thing is he felt so comfortable with us that he said some very nice things about our interviewing skills, which is interesting for a guy who won an Oscar, who's been interviewed by everybody, so we took that personally. But he said he uses actors' exercises to get in touch with his creativity. And he knows he hits it when he starts to cry. And I said to him, because I'm one of those, my team will tell you I'm a crier. And I said to him, it's very tough for men to access that. He said, absolutely. But when he accesses that, it comes out in ways that allows him to touch the kind of sound design that can make things really special. Like we didn't know the MGM lion was actually a tiger. Which is true. It's a trade secret, but he took a tiger sound because lion sounds don't sound lion-like. They're not really roaring. It's kind of like yawning. They kind of go, roar, where lions go roar. But when he said that he got to this personal place by touching his humanity, it made his creativity so much bigger. It keeps underscoring for me why this kind of stuff is important. A couple things that if you're observant, I'm sure you notice. How many babies do you notice start out on pads before they can talk? Right? How many of us drive in such a way where we're sensitive to the person who is slightly veering because they're texting? They don't quite go up to the stop sign because they're texting. We've worked ourselves into a space where we're observant about that kind of stuff. We are honoring at our award show a guy who's 24 years old, a mechanical engineering student from the University of Tennessee, had a tremendous job when he graduated, decided to follow his love for audio, enrolled in the Blackbird Academy, which is a great partner of ours, was riding home for lunch, got hit by a texting driver, is now paralyzed for life. People just couldn't put down their digital to sort of be aware of their humanity. And then they fucked up somebody else's humanity forever. Serious shit. I've talked to his dad. I know the indignities this kid goes through as a 24-year-old. Forever. Forever. So what we've tried to do is say, okay, and I talked to the kid and I said to him, you're now going to affect more people ever than you could have than if you mixed or you're an audio person. And I said, the worst problem you have is I'm now on your ass. I am on your ass. I'm going to take this story because he's a warrior. And we're going to do some things, and we're going to show you how the audio community is going to come back and demonstrate their humanity and make your life easier and make you do something. So I'm watching this whole yin and yang process from the worst to the best and back around, and it's amazing what is the glue that's always positive is the humanity side. We call it the head down society. Everybody's like this, locked. Now we've seen studies where that is causing some scoliosis issues in people because it's like having a 60-pound weight, your head down for a whole year. And we're seeing kids and stuff come up with spine problems and issues. There's a dopamine loop effect from texting. You text, your dopamine goes off and you wait. And then when you get it back, your dopamine goes off and says answer. And then you're in a loop all day long. And they're doing studies and it's showing post-traumatic stress syndrome among people. Non-stop, you're never out of the loop. What part of that connection is actually creating disconnection? When you're a head down society, who are you connected to? Your device or people? You have to analyze. I'm not even saying I know the answer. I'm saying the question should be posed. Too often times in what we do, we get to the answer before we define the question. We're just after answers. And then we go, what does it mean? And maybe we should think about, and the stewards in here should think about, and the pop culture people should think about the inverse. Maybe we should see what the question is and then answer that in a more holistic way. I think that the opportunity is really amazing. On the tour we did yesterday, and my team is in awe. All you Googlers, we are straight up in awe. We're just like, oh my God, we're at Google, what the hell? And we're posing with every green Android thing, ice cream sandwich. We were just like, we're still that way. You know when we had the best time? Was at dinner. When we got together, there were about 30 of us, and we just went buck wild because we were drinking and talking and partying and sharing, and it was the humanity part. After all the other stuff, it was the humanity part that made us go. Now we're all great friends. We want to get back together and hang out because we did the final touch. We could have taken the tour, got on the bus, went home and said thank you very much and never connected. And we talked about, Les and I talked about at length, how many of you folks are in positions to work round the clock, just be a factory. But at Google, free, everything, laundry, whatever, buses. All I'm saying is sometimes disconnect and get back to the connectivity that allows you to realize, because here's what we all know, and I'm almost done. We notice that we're seeing people who have bad socialization skills because they're in here. They don't know necessarily how to communicate. We're noticing people that have different kind of job skills, that they don't have perspective, that they sometimes can't rationalize. Now they can find you an answer fast as shit. My team is just like that, particularly my assistant. I can go wah and not even get to tur. And he'll have, here's the sediment in the thing for this brand and this, that, and the other, and the water level, and this is good for you, because he's, and I'm like, okay, now. So we were going to the airport once, we were going to Nashville, and he was taking pictures, very excited. And I snuck up to him and snatched his phone away. And I thought I was going to have to call the paramedics. Wait, give me my device. I was like, Chonga, we're going to have to get you into phone rehab, bro, because you're 24, you're taking it really seriously. When you think about some of the bad stuff, and I'm almost done, the power of being tech stewards and pop stewards, you know, when you think about somebody can reach into the tech space and radicalize somebody and have them go murder people, that's serious shit. When you see people are trying to affect our electoral process because they can hack in and do things, doesn't matter what your politics are, it's serious shit. When we were invited to Facebook, and we got to meet a bunch of Zuckerberg's lieutenants, and it was the day before the F8 conference, and they were having a diversity day. So I was talking to virtual reality people because Facebook Live, they found that if you had experts on, that longer videos got you 10x an audience. So what it made me think about is that Pensado's Place is on for an hour still. And we were really ahead of the wave, even though we didn't know it. And so the expertise has made our show grow instead of what you usually hear, shorter video. So the Facebook folks were saying on Facebook Live, longer is better as long as you have an expert. So then I talked to virtual reality people, and we're hearing all the attributes and stuff, and I've done virtual reality and, you know, had vertigo and stuff. So I said to him, it's interesting about Facebook Live, about virtual reality, what if that was used for torture? The guy said, whoa, nobody's ever asked us that because we think about that a lot. I said, yeah, because if I had somebody in handcuffs and I put goggles on them and headphones, I could literally drive them crazy. Literally. If they couldn't take it off, I could drive them crazy. I could use virtual reality to get any aim out of somebody I wanted to if I was nefarious. So you gotta be thinking about the impact of these things. You cannot remove the humanity from this. You gotta connect the humanity and digital stuff. That kind of torture would make waterboarding look like tiddlywinks. Literally, I could do this, handcuff him, and probably 48 hours later, he would be bonkers, depending on what I put in that program. I wouldn't even have to be there. Set it up, hit play, and just say, come back, and he's a babbling idiot. That's where we live. Now, that's not all downside. I'm just saying, if you have your humanity in place, you're aware of those kinds of things. Keep this in mind in closing. You have unlimited resources. You have amazing reach. We're all stewards of sort of the present and of the future. I hope that you all take time to sometimes disconnect because, and here's the real truth, we need you. We need your brilliance. We need the innovation. You're changing lives. And the more you do it in a way that works for me, what is Pokemon Go but just a big community? It's just people sharing this experience, even though it's really wild to watch somebody so completely out of touch that they'll run out into a freeway to chase some digital shit. Like, it's just, I was sitting at a park one day on the phone, and this kid, this ginger-haired kid, he was walking like this, and he would just go run up a hill. And then he would run to a driveway, and he'd run back down there. I said, what the fuck, what is he doing? I was like, oh, that's a Pokemon Go dude, right? And then they would all get together. But at the end of the day, it's a community that's come together and have a shared experience. So, you know, lastly, which is important to everybody in here, when you put humanity in digital, you also make a lot of money. You get job performance because you've done something that works. If you're an innovator and you have licenses and equity, you get paid that way. If you create a craze, you get paid that way. Google search, which touched us all, built a company. We have this crazy web show from two guys who weren't broadcasters, and I can tell you that we sold half of that company about 6 months ago for a significant amount of money because people were, and I have CEOs up my behind all the time, and one of the proudest things I am about it is it checks boxes on all of them. Forbes has interviewed us 3 times, Huffington Post, all that kind of stuff. And when they peel back the covers and they look at how we run the business and they look at the e-commerce vertical and they look at the live event stuff and they look at the curriculum series and the global distribution, they go, whoa, this isn't just a web show. It's like, no, I'm trying to touch people and I'm trying to build a business, but I'm keeping we are keeping humanity in it because it makes us bigger. It makes us good. This is just important to us. We are speaking at Google, and I will tell you, me and my team will talk about this for the next week, literally, because for us, it is a big ass deal, and we could never have imagined it when we started this.
Still can't imagine it. I'm here.
So I just want to close, since Dave did a little thing. I just want to close with something from a great bard that you guys know, and his name is Justin Timberlake. The fact of the matter is, when you are sitting in your car jamming and he says, nothing I can see but you when you dance, 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 feeling so good creeping up on you, keep dance, 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 can't stop the feeling. That feeling's where the money is. That feeling is where the connection is. And if you want to be a badass, I love badasses. I love alpha folks. I love that shit. Where that feeling is where the breakthrough is. It's not just the digital shit, it's getting to your heart. So thank you for having us. That makes sense? Now let's.
Thank you, guys. Do we have any questions from the audience?
So first of all, thanks for coming. Huge fan of the show. It was weird because I had just stumbled upon your show. I've been in audio for a long time since I was a kid, and I didn't realize like how big it had actually gotten. So congrats.
Thanks.
The humanity thing that actually both of you guys talked about, that was really interesting to me. One of my favorite episodes was Mick Gradzowski, or he did the Daft Punk record.
Yes.
And the thing that was so cool about him was, I mean, that's an electronic record technically, but he did some of it on analog. It kind of plays like a disco record.
Yes.
It feels human, and that's from Daft Punk, where many of the vocals don't even sound human, right?
Great observation.
So I guess my question is, how do you take that humanity and make sure that it's not just, because so much music now, it seems so isolated.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it is some, like one person on a laptop making, composing, and that's fine. But where do you, where do you get humanity in a world where everyone's starting to step back into those realms? When I was working at a studio, everyone was like, I learned on tape.
Sure.
And you needed at least 2 people in a room to make a record. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I think I can't say you're missing the point, but I think that what we're really talking about is a song. It all starts with a song. If you've got a great song with great lyrics, if you got a great song, that's how you touch people. Nothing else in the process matters if you don't have a great song. What you fell in love with Daft Punk was not whether it was analog or digital, but Get Lucky is just a great song. It just and sometimes when you see a beautiful human being, in my case a girl, I don't fall in love with her clothes. I don't fall in love with her shoes. I don't fall in love with her hairstyle. I fall in love with her beauty inside and out. So without a great song, there is no music industry. And he who owns the song owns the industry. And now my job is to take that song and allow it to go through all these processes we've been talking about and discussing and reach you with more emphasis, with more everything that you like about the song than what I was given. So it all starts with the song, and it all starts with, if you don't know it, you can't recognize it. So if you don't know how to manipulate our tools to get that song enhanced, you can't do it. Analog is like a plug-in with one preset. So if you want your equipment to make decisions for you, use analog gear. If you want to control the decision, digital is the space for you. And they're both valid. And why use only 40 cards in the deck. Use all 52.
And I would answer it slightly differently, because I think everything Dave said is correct. And in some cases, for me, it may just be where I live, a lot of what he talked about were tools that are critical. A song is about writing something that is a great song. The tools you use that he uses to do that. If you don't have a great performance, if you don't have something, then you're absolutely missing what it is. And here's the beauty of your question. The beauty of your question is you don't have to search for it. You just search inside you. And then what you bring to it is where that creativity is going to come from. There's no place to go grab it. You got to turn inward. And that's exactly what is starting to happen, or has been happening for a while, that there's less of. People look out of themselves to find the magic button. Turn it inside. And then when you get the great tool, you know what to do with it. Mick Gazowski knew how to take us, and he said that on air. He said, you know what, I wanted kind of an 80s disco thing, but have it cut through it. It's the same thing as the ubiquitous Happy when Pharrell did it. At some point in time, you just wanted to beat Pharrell's ass because you just couldn't get out of your head. Like, you know, I'm not, Pharrell, I've known Pharrell forever. He used to come to me for advice 100 years ago. And he just had that way of saying, I'm gonna grab you in that spot that had nothing to do with digital, and you have no choice. Whether you like this music or not, you're gonna, but it's what he had inside, and oftentimes that's the differentiator, the creative people who can get inside and find that thing and open up. And I think it is, because we want to take some other questions, I think it is an exercise. It's not, I tried and I didn't get to it. You gotta keep going and carving out, and then you'll find out where you'll touch that particular spot. And when it's uncomfortable, oftentimes is when you're just about there. If it doesn't feel comfortable, you haven't really been truthful with yourself. You got to get up down into the weeds and so on and so forth, and then all of a sudden you get that little anguish, and you go, oh, and it's going to come out this way. If comedians, oftentimes, as an example, and oftentimes musicians too, oftentimes are coming from great places of pain, and it manifests itself out in comedy that just makes you laugh, and the irony is really weird. So just know that you have that choice. Nobody else can control it. You can go dig in your thing, and you'll come up with something, and that'll be your signature and your touch. Does that make sense, Steve?
One quick thing. Please give me this. In order to do what Herb's talking about and I'm talking about, you have to have creativity, and you have to have sensitivity. Herb talked about crying from a friend of ours. Let me emphasize, there's only one form of creativity. There's not different forms of creativity. There's different forms of media through which one's creativity can be expressed. But if you want more creativity, go to the museum. It's the same exact creativity I use. It's the same exact creativity Faulkner used. Same creativity, blah, 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 blah. So go find your creativity and your inspiration in those people that have mastered it outside your realm of comfort and taste, and then through that creativity you generate taste, and it's what your taste that you use.
Yeah, know that you have it, that you're just trying to find it.
It can grow.
Everybody has different levels of it, but you can't get to it. It's like mining data out. Does that make sense? Any other questions?
All creativity is borrowed.
Go ahead, man.
All creativity is
you don't have to run. We're waiting.
I love what you just said about creativity being borrowed, because Jim Jarmusch, the film director, has an amazing thing about creativity and authenticity, and it goes back to your question as well about how nothing is original. Everything is borrowed. The most important thing is to be authentic.
Completely.
There's a band called Guided. I will get to a question, I promise.
Sure, man, no worries.
And it's going to be technical. But there's a band called Guided by Voices. I don't know if you know them. They did some albums in the 90s. The production quality is horrible. But they are, to me, the most truthful and authentic music that I've heard in almost all of my life. So if you haven't heard of them, check them out. It's indie rock, but there's nothing that's more sort of authentic and soulful than these.
Because I can tell how it touched you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows in the way you talk about them.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. Go ahead with your technical.
So here's my technical question. I remember reading, and I can't remember the source for this, that a person in audio production was lamenting the fact that there's no common lingua franca to describe qualities of audio. So, you might hear one engineer say, oh, those highs are really tizzy, or the mids or the low mids are woofy or whatever. And I'm wondering, first of all, do you suppose, in your personal opinion, that having this common jargon would be useful for the industry in general, or is it a good thing that we have these sort of still very fuzzy, ill-defined terms that we use?
Yeah, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
The only thing that the sound and I'm not calling you stupid. I just want to
Sure sound like it.
That's probably going to be the best question I've gotten in the way you framed it in the last 2 years. So I'm going to check that group out. I've heard the name. I'm not familiar with their stuff. But you answered your own question by saying the production values weren't that good, but it moved you. Sound, and my manipulation of sound, is not to make something sound good. It's not to make something appear this way. It's to manipulate the energy and the emotions of a track. Now, I can take the low frequencies to give it kind of power, like we just heard from the kick drum outside. I can take the mid-range of a guitar to give you credibility and to make you feel something. I can put high end on a vocal to give you one sort of emotional experience, like with a Mariah Carey vocal, or I can put a ton of mid-range in it, take out the high end, and I can give you Steven Tyler, Mick Jagger emotion. So sound, as we all know, generates images in our brain. I challenge you to all go look up the McGurk effect, McGurk, which basically shows that the vision takes precedent over sound, because when things wanted to eat us, it was better to see them and run than to hear them and run. And so you use that concept in an advanced form to create images in a person's mind with the sound. So the sound that was created for you by a poor production was that indie thing, that's what grabbed you. So think of sound as a series of tools that you can use and frequencies that you can use to manipulate the listener and enhance the song. And Herb brought up a great point about the performance, enhance the performance. Like sometimes on some of my big records, I might spend 12 hours just on manipulating the ends of words in every word, because Michael Jackson once told me the energy and the emotion is not where you start a word, it's how you end it. And so Michael would do those little, all those little things. That's where the passion is. So if you listen to what I did with Single Ladies with Beyoncé or Beautiful Christina, I spent 12, 14 hours on the ends of words, and not because of anything other than the sound of it and the way I manipulated those frequencies. It has some kind of a priori experience in your brain. So
and to the lingua franca part of your question,
I love that.
Which is your question. It would be really terrible to commoditize it, and we all speak the same way.
I hope we never figured this out.
That is exactly what you shouldn't have happen. So some people will, if you know somebody really well and you say, I want that kick to have ass, you may know what that means, and it may not mean that to some other people. And that's how a lot of big-time producers communicate when they trust. Other ones are really hands-on. It can become very specific. And constantly through this, having to stay on your toes about what information and the translation. So let's say you're hired by 10 different people. Actually, this Mark Mangini guy that we had on this week, I think the episode was this week. It posts today, I think. He said, I asked him that on air, and he said different directors do and say different things. Some engineers, some producers, some writers have carte blanche to go a lot. I used to hire Dave all the time as a manager, because Dave would actually take records and sort of finish the production, and the artist would trust him. So he would say, man, you know what? Your drums are a little tinny, and I want them to ring more. And I'd go, cool, I understand what that means in Dave Pensado language. That might mean something different. So I think arts, creativity, humanity should never become commoditized. We should have our own kind of language, and it should be special and keep us, because then it allows it to evolve. If it just flattens out, that is and I don't want to make digital a bad thing, but we'll just call it digital as a cash place. That's where the commoditization of that would make a place where there's such beauty become very flat. Next question. Love that fro, brother. Had one of those. I got some pictures of me in college, man. This shit was like this. I was proud. I'm proud of that, Fro. All right, go ahead.
I wanted to say I really was sort of impacted by what Dave started out with about the dissolving of boundaries between different aspects of science and things like that. And it made me think about how as sort of like independent musicians have so much power to sort of do the promotion, the production, and so much we're able to do on our own. Mm-hmm. And you can sort of dilute the humanity in sort of getting your work out. And I wanted to know if you, what your opinions were on how that sort of might affect the industry and musicians coming up and having to work on their own.
Well, I'll start from the sort of business side of it. Ultimately, I would love for your passions to pay your bills. And the business has evolved in such a way where you can follow your passions and not get to that end result. And so I toil between how much to focus on that and how much not to. In other words, you ought to be able to follow your craft and feel good about it and feel good that you get responses to it and so on and so forth. But then go try to take your SoundCloud likes and go pay your rent. Your landlord's not going to take it. He's not. Pay your car bill with your subscriptions. Not going to happen. So you're trying to find a way to make sure you can encourage your art to keep going and make money and so on and so forth, because we came out of a time period where no matter where you were on the spectrum, there was sort of an economic model that went with that. If you had a top 40 record on an indie rock chart or on the urban adult chart, as a manager, I could say, okay, well, we can tour at this level and we can make money at this level and the royalties would be at that level. And I could find a fight so that my artists could then do that again and follow their passions. And they didn't ever have to try to become Beyonce or something. They could stay right where they felt independent. The resourcing allowed that to happen. Now what we have is sort of an alternative economy where people are sharing and doing other things that are community-based and likes and subscriptions and other kinds of, and it has value. It's people reacting to your craft, they're informing you about what they like and don't like. You're getting a chance to see your thing reacted to without, look, we're an example of that. Do you think 15 years ago, I could have went to NBC and said, hey, we're going to do a show on TV about engineers. Now, we've never been broadcasters and shit, and we're not very good at it, and we don't know what the fuck we're going to do, but why don't you sign us up? They say, get the fuck out of here. Well, the reality of it is, in the new economy, we were able to do that. And so when the CEO of Netflix called me 3 years ago and said, yo, your show is rocking. It's not for us, but it's rocking. And then he called the head of YouTube, Rick, I forget Rick's name, Kunsel. And they had me over at Google in Beverly Hills, and we had a discussion. I sat there like amazed that just because we put it out and because we took it seriously, well, at the time we weren't making a lot of money at it, but people had noticed, and I could feel it starting to turn into something. So to truncate everything I just said, I think that it is an area of discovery that you guys can help figure out. That you should maintain that independent spirit. Be fierce about it. Because musically, you're going to break through because you believe in it. You're going to find some way that your craft speaks to the people that you want to speak to. And then the next step, once you're speaking to people, is to figure out, do you do it as a love because you're making money someplace else? Can you focus completely on it and make money? At the end of the day, resourcing is going to come into place someplace. But don't let it dominate your ability to be independent and move forward and be creative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man.
Also, if anybody in here wants to be an engineer in 30 seconds, you are one. Just download a free DAW and you're an engineer. So anybody that wants to be an engineer and thinks they have to do something special to be one, you're kidding yourself. Now the difference between you and me is I spend a little more time. But you can be what you want to be. Now in your case, if your goal is to get your music out to some people, you're there. If your goal is to get yourself and your music out to 100,000 people, I'm pretty sure you're there too. If your goal is to get your music to 1 million people, have them enjoy it, and support your lifestyle that you think you deserve, then that's a different thing. And one of the things I do that's unique in my profession is the first thing I do with an artist is I sit down and ask them, who's going to buy this record? Who do you want to buy this record? So Mary J. Blige on Be Without You, which was her biggest record and changed her life, she said, well, I see like the hip hop community, and I go, whoa, Mary, hold on. No 14-year-old black male is going to buy this record. It was Be Without You. I said, that's killed your career. Let's don't make another record like that. I have no interest in that. This is a great song, and you sang the crap out of it. Who do you want to buy this record? Let's go for like everything from the whole spectrum. And I said, I want white women to be singing this record, and I'll get you a Chevy commercial. I got her a GMC commercial. And her reply to me was, Dave, I respect my audience. I don't want to lose my audience. I said, Mary, I'll grow your audience.
Did you get commissions from that commercial? Because I didn't see them. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I'm not sure that's quite
correct.
correct.
I also did the iPod commercial, too.
And did you get commissions for that?
Let's talk about that later.
Okay, cool.
So I was 18 or 19 weeks at #1 on the R&B chart, which she never did, broke the record. I think I still own it. So I kept her audience, and her biggest #1 top record ever. So as you're trying to get this information out there, deconstruct who you want to relate to your music and how you want them to relate to your music and how you're going to monetize it.
And let me add just one other thing. So
that's germane to the whole process. Don't even do anything until you do that.
But this is also germane. The record business is in trouble. The music business is not. There's a difference. The record business is for a small group of people who are trying to reach the most people, generally by radio. And that is, and what I argue with my youngsters on my team about is, stop making that the evil empire. That's an exercise in immaturity. It is part of the world of music, period. And it serves certain people. And I will tell you, after people who've been part of that, if you can become part of that, it is a great fucking place to be. I'm going to tell you that straight up. It is people who, yeah, but if you're competitive, if you want to be in the space, I couldn't imagine what the pressure is up here. So my point is that that's just a component of a business that's much broader. What happened and became democratized is now you don't have to be part of the record business to make music and put out records. That's a beautiful thing. So the only thing left in that part of the equation, the value equation, is how to make money at it. You now can make the music, put it out, have it mastered, produce it, do whatever, have it responded to, find an audience, perform live, do all kinds of stuff depending upon your commitment. It has become, I call what we do and what I'm talking about, I call it digital emancipation. I am now free. I have a television show. I never dreamed about having a television show. I have a television broadcast center. I never dreamed about having that. It's a real deal. We produce an XM Sirius radio show. We're getting ready to do a big sports thing involved with the Rams. And it's not necessarily Pensado connected, just some other things. I have all these dreams because we weren't afraid to dream. So you can learn from the bigger thing, but you don't have to necessarily be part of it. But there's great lessons in it. There's great, and particularly monetization messages. So oftentimes with my younger guys, and most of our staff is 23 to 26, and they've come up and they're under a paradigm that's probably similar to there, and so they'll go, ooh, major labels. I'm like, okay, that's cool, you can have that position, but you're missing a whole series of lessons that you may be able to take, reprocess it, apply to the independent space, and all of a sudden you're making a living. And then when you're making a living, it ain't so bad. You're like, well, the major shit's not so bad. Like, I can pay my rent and I can help my mom out, and I got a car and shit. Like, I don't have people trying to repossess my shit. Like, it's not all that bad. So and we have. When I met Dave was in his car. I've had my cars repossessed. I bankrupted my company because it failed. I've also been offered the presidency of record companies. I've run stuff. I've done a lot of things. I'm getting an award October 22nd, which sort of flabbergasted me, that Quincy Jones received and Russell Simmons received and other people received. It's called the Living Legend Award. And I got it for being creative visionary, but when I got the letter from the chairman, they said, you are our hardest nominee because you qualify in so many of our categories. And I, to myself, went, not bad, brother. Not bad. I brushed off my shoulder a little bit. I
brushed off the other one.
Dave brushed off my back, my shoulder, some parts that I don't need to tell you guys about.
I have no idea how brilliant this man next to me is.
Whatever. I am lucky to whatever gifts I've been giving. I will, and I will tell you this, just to tie into this. So I did a lot before, and you remember I talked about the intro when I gave that speech, and just this resume was really long. 20 million records with Brian McKnight, and this and that, and consultant to like 6 different labels, and took Maurice White and Earth, Wind & Fire's catalog to Broadway, and did lots of shit, right? If this was the scales of justice or some sort of scale, and I took everything I did in the record business, which was fairly significant, I've just never been somebody, to Dave's great angst and other friends of mine, I've just never tried to grab credit. I like rolling low and having results. But that's not always been the wisest thing. But if I were to take both of those and say, here's all the things I did on the record side, and took shit to all the stuff I just described, and I took Pensado's place in the digital space, and remember on the record side, Brian, a few others, probably sold somewhere around 30 million records globally. All that on the record side would be here, and Pensado's place on the digital side would be here. It's not fucking close. Not fucking close. And when I came into this, you have to understand, I knew nothing about audio. Audio and the record business are two different things. We hire people in audio to do stuff for records, and we go back and try to sell to people. So we say, hey, Dave, mix this record, thank you very much, good, we'll talk to you in a year, we'll do the next record, and we go over here. They weren't connected. So I spent a year as co-host of a show, sort of playing tennis, just looking back and forth, because people, oh, you're great, you have parallel compression. I would just say shit. Oh yeah, oh great, fader, and just so like that. Because I had to do a number of things. The reason I'm saying this is because it parallels your question. So I had to do a number of things. Be invited in, be a good citizen when I came in, meet everybody and let them know that I was real about it, commit and do the work, prove to them that I was in it, not as an interloper to come in and make a bunch of money and try to get out, because I know there was money going to be made, respect the craft. What did I get for that? Found out the people in the space, you guys are flat out brilliant. And I've done the highest level of the artist thing. I've done the highest level of the manager thing. I have sat in Clive Davis's private bungalow. I've sat with Tommy Mottola. I've done all that. I've been really blessed. The audio space, the people in it, the practitioners of it, are about 100 times more brilliant of some other very brilliant people. Technically, you run very deep. Emotionally, you understand how to get something creative and turn into something that people want. I tell people all the time, engineers are also incredible psychologists. They here's what we did with Pensado's place. I decided to just rip back the cover of something I believe for a long time, is that engineers and you guys sit at the intersection of art and commerce. So if Les is Bruno Mars, and Robbie Klein produces Bruno Mars, if Dave doesn't do a great mix, he doesn't become Bruno Mars and he doesn't make any money. If the mix sucks, then it's not gonna go be successful. So the power is right here, and I decided to make a show about it and rip it back. What I didn't know is I knew I had a gold standard, I didn't know how many fans there would be. And what we found out, and I argue with people all the time when they say it's a niche, not niche, it's that the tools and the technology, and you guys all believe you have more of a chance to be that than to be Bruno Mars. And that is true. And it also includes a lot of women. And so we decided to say, pull this back and look at how big this audience is. And now that audience is ADR, and it's film, and it's Foley, and we're gonna do a show on forensics in law enforcement in audio. We're gonna do a show on medicine in audio. We know doctors who utilize audio to detect a good cancer cell versus a bad cancer cell. We think that's interesting. We're gonna do a show on couples in audio. How do you have somebody not at home all the time, and how do you manage the house, and what happens, and where does the pressure come, and how do you make that happen? So I'm just saying, the audio thing, and this is what we tell people all the time, there's no place in the world that is silent. That's how big your job scale is. See how quiet it is right now? because you are thinking about it, because you don't think about it that way. No place. So when it's silent, like right now, that means you all aren't doing your job. It's never silent. It is the only discipline that's in everything. There's an opportunity in audio that is endless. Take it from two dudes, not broadcasters, old as shit, good looking still. No, we still keep the cute. Oh no, we keep the sexy working. Don't worry, that's important. But think about it, we have this crazy show that you guys are fans of, that we're stewards of every day, that we started in my late 50s, his mid 60s. How many people start that shit there? And we have fans from 18 to 70 around the globe. I could pull up this iPad and show you 70 individual videos from Indian students begging us to come over there. So we're going over there in March because they want to create a Pensado-based NAM, which is a huge thing. And I have a million things. So I'm only saying all this theoretical stuff to say that the intersection that you sit in is really powerful if you look at it in its totality and not in its singularity. Yes, you can be independent. Yes, you can keep the spirit, but you can take those tools and take it to wherever you want and take lessons from the other places who already have set some paths for you to create your own paradigm.
Hello. Okay. I have a question. So whenever a record is a hit, like quote unquote a hit record,
yep,
top of the Billboard charts around the world, everybody loves it. To me, it's like almost like a baby miracle happens. Mm-hmm. Because you have to think like from the creation of that record to the delivery of that record, what's happening at that time in the world, in culture, how it's received. Yeah. All of that has to line up perfectly. Like all the stars have to be aligned for that record to become a hit.
Right.
And so in your process, mm-hmm, when you're mixing a record, how do you know when it's going to be a hit? Is it when you receive the record and you just say, okay, this is a hit, and now I know how to enhance it to make it a mega hit? Or is it during that process, or is it like, what happens? Like, when do you finally realize, like, this is it?
Great question. Go ahead.
I don't know that I can speak for everyone that does what I do, but I know most of the people at the top, and I don't think you ever really think about that. I never really thought, is this a hit or is this not a hit? Because a hit has almost nothing to do with my side of the business. So I've had so many records that I thought could be successful in the marketplace, but the A&R guy got fired, or the artist decided to do something. Anyway, a hit is a weird anomaly in the profession because there's no way you can actually know how to make one. Now, having said that, I arrogantly will tell you that if I really, really, really like a song, it almost always does well. And I can tell you with somewhat a little bit of humility, every time I hate a song, it may be a hit, it may not be a hit. So to this day, when I hear End of the Road, I want to kill Wanye and the boys over at Boys to Men. I just hate that song. It's just a piece of crap, Herb.
But it was a hit.
So I know, that's my point. I can tell when something, I can't tell when something's a hit, but when I like something, more often than not, it does well. And you can ask my assistant Leandro. We're doing a little more indie work this year, and we both fell in love with this record, and within a few weeks, it had 40 million hits on Spotify. When I like something, it does well. When I don't like something, may be good, may not be good. But I thought it was very, very, very cool that you talked about the process between Herb and I. We covered that process, and I handed off to a group of people, and Lord knows what happens to it after that.
I think I think in some cases what you try to do is you try to just do your best with whatever you have, because most of the things you mix are not hits. You know, on an album there might be one or two things that come off. So you got to bring it every time. I'll give you a specific example that you all watched. So Justin Bieber walked in here. There'd be a group of people that would boo. There'd be a group of people that dig it, right? And what a lot of people miss, whether it's the NBA or anybody like that, is that we ask 18-year-olds to be impressive and be mature and so forth, and then we grow with them during the evolution, and generally they start to grow up and then they become more normal. And there's a point in time where they're just batshit crazy. So what we saw on the last record of Justin Bieber is him going from batshit crazy to becoming more mature, and we all, most of us that I know of, dig the shit out of the record. And there's a lot of sort of Bieber haters who are going, you know, I hate Justin Bieber, but Sorry is bad as shit, or that record's really good. And so, you know, when you've done it for as long as we've done, we've seen that all the time. If you like sports, you know, people who hate Kobe forget that Kobe was 26 when he was saying to Shaquille, you don't work hard enough. Nobody wanted to hear that from a 26-year-old. As he became 30, he became a cooler guy. People hate LeBron. You can go on and on and on and see the example. So Justin, you know, his engineer, Josh Goodwin, Justin saw that he had A&R chops and that he actually could hear. And so he entrusted Josh, the engineer, to find songs and to help him pick songs. And then he entrusted Josh in selecting those songs and being involved in the sort of production direction and mix. That is very rare for engineers to happen, but Josh showed that creativity and that ability to get that sensibility, and now he has been rewarded better economically, because I know the deal, because he asked me to advise him on the deal, more than generally engineers do in part of something that's really growing up. So the point of it is that the creativity and hit making and being able to hear and all that kind of stuff, that is something you don't know till I started out as a promotion person, was the worst promotion person in the world, because back in the day they used all kinds of illegal substances and stuff to get records played and all those kinds of things. All that shit's true, just in case you want to know. It is.
Not just illegal substances, but other things that are illegal.
Yeah, they were all illegal. And I thought that if I had illegal substances and I was supposed to get a record played, that it was just much more efficient use of my time to talk to a really attractive woman, and we can just talk about other kinds of things and make that work. And my boss said, you know what, we're going to take you off the promotion thing. And I sort of veered into, because I like the creative space. So I started hanging out with people like L.A. Reid and Babyface and getting into that. So what I found is I could hear. And other people who can hear can recognize other people who can hear. And then you become part of the smaller community. People who can hear recognize other people who can hear. Because when you're in there reacting to the wrong things, you can go, oh, he can't hear a Scud missile. You know, but when you know a record and you understand a hook, or you understand a bridge, or you understand the passion in a set of chords, or whatever the case may be, that's something that comes up from practice and being around other people. And that is why A&R is so small and so specific, and frankly in the record business is also the most lucrative. If you're a writer or you're an A&R on the major record business, you get paid like shit, because you go out and find the things that make commerce. And they can come from any place. And because of the internet now, A&R used to be done in meetings and connections and word of mouth and referrals. Now it's done online. Somebody pulls up what you've done, what are your likes, what are your things, let me listen to songs, let me look at stuff, let me look at performances, so on and so forth, and that gets you to the next meeting. So now you're deciphering through a lot of content, a lot of data that Dave talked about, a lot of information to try to get to that nugget. But if you're good at that, and it's also very fulfilling creatively to find, there was a song 100 years ago, and this is maybe my first indicator. Remember Paula Abdul from back in the day? Okay, there's some heads shaking, which is really cool. She had a song called Straight Up, which is a very big, that's what changed her career. I found that song. And I found that song because a producer who was working with me had it. He didn't know what to do with it. I knew some A&R people. Paula was just going to be somebody who's going to choreograph something for Virgin Records. And they decided to give her a singles deal. And I knew the A&R person, who was Dawn was his wife at the time. Dawn was a brilliant producer and the head of Blue Note Records. And I said, you should try this record. And they liked the record. I said, we really like this record. And they did it, and big video, and the rest is history. And I got rewarded for being able to hear. So I was able to call chairman and say, I found this record. I think it would work for that artist. They say, Herb, bring it in right away. I want to hear. And even then when you missed, it didn't mean that you couldn't hear anymore. You just didn't have the right record for the thing. And I turned that into a career, but I didn't realize I had that capability then. So that's why hits are amorphous, but the process of getting to them is not. hits are hard to find, but your ability to recognize it, identify it, and then recognize it, also then you have to match it. It's like Tinder. You're like, you might pick the wrong picture or pick the wrong Match.com and it didn't work. So how do you cast that song with that particular artist and hope for that performance? So there's a whole process to it. It doesn't negate the other side, the promotion side, the marketing side, and all the other things that she talked about, the process to make it happen. And that's the major label game. It's like a big chess game with subtle, strategic, surgical moves that you hope come together, fueled by enormous money. A pop, independent, indie budget for promotion people is about $1.8 million per single. That's the risk they take. And most of them don't work. So when you want to talk about record companies, how evil they are banks spending a whole ton of money, risking like shit, mostly losing, to try to get to the hit thing. So if you had 4 singles on one record, that's not the budget for the record. That's not the rest of the distribution stuff. That's not buying places in stores or online. That's just radio promotion. So 4 singles will cost you about $6 million. Put out about 15 records a month. You guys do the math. It's a big time game. So you can be evil about it, but you should be smart and sort of learn about it and go, oh, wait, I understand. And then when you meet a practitioner in the game, you can say, I need to talk to you. How does this work? How does that work? And then apply it to your shit. Or you can stand out and just, go, well, fuck major suck, fuck the, and it's okay. I'm not saying you can't be, because I think people are mad at the system without sort of understanding what it is. We have found, and there's a lot of dipshits in the record business, that's for sure, but most of them are really committed people doing a very tough job where the winds are blowing against them and trying to find ways to how to break through Gaudier or how to break through Taylor Swift or how to break through, because it is hand-to-hand combat every time. Just because you were there doesn't mean that you can come back and get it. It is a battle to break Bruno Mars through. It's a battle to, it's literally war. It's like attacking Fallujah. It used to be much easier in our day. Today it's a fight. So that's all. The process is complicated. And so on the indie side, it's stripped down. You got to make a record, put it out, put it on SoundCloud, get back some responses, and then see what you do with that. That's much more freeing and much more cool. But now you have an opportunity to sophisticate that and then maybe go turn into a living for yourself. So that's the whole hit context.
What we tend to use as the Bible for success is Billboard, usually the Hot 100. That's where I like to live. And I asked Diane Warren, if you don't know her, she's one of the most prolific, successful songwriters of all time. I asked Diane, how many songs do you have to write to get a hit? And she goes, well, Dave, I have to write about 100 just to get one on the Hot 100. And of those songs, I said, how many of those become, number one? She goes, I need about 60 of those to get one number one. I asked Pharrell the same question. His numbers were a little less. Something like, I can't remember, but it was about half of what Diane's were. So if you do that particular math, that's a lot of songs that you have to write just to get one number one song. My ratio is I had to mix around 200 to 300 songs to get one number one song.
I mean, when I managed Brian McKnight, this was 90s to maybe 2004, and we had this sort of 10-year run as like the urban male that was pop. He really was a jazz musician. He would cut a record a day. I had 1,800 demos, and most of his albums were, and he was so good at it that they were very close. They just needed to be put in his hands and finished off. But he would go in, he saw it as his job. And so all those didn't become records. It's a grind. You ever been on tour? Let me tell you how unsexy touring is, okay? Get your ass in a bus, sit on a bunk that's about as comfortable as this, do that for about, 400 miles, get up at 5 in the morning and be fresh, start doing promotion at 5 o'clock in the morning, take about a half-hour break for lunch, do more promotion right up to sound check, do sound check, go home to your change. You may have about a half hour time, get all the energy and physical energy that you need to do to put on a show, which is like being in the gym for like 3 straight hours. And then at the end of it, meet and greet all your fans, be nice, do all that kind of stuff, stop about 2 o'clock in the morning, go to a club afterwards, sign autographs, this, that, and the other, get on the bus, and rinse, wash, and repeat the next day. That shit's really cool for about 2 years. Yeah. About that 3rd year, you're going, fuck, this is a bitch. And so I'm just saying that what we all love requires work and commitment. And I don't care if we have people from AES here who are brilliant. We have people from Media Center who do stuff that cares. All the stuff that we do and care about, our public relations folks, we do it because we love it. And we work hard to get to that space where we get rewarded. And that's the commitment you should have as well, too. Cool.
Just want to say thanks to you guys for coming out. And
our pleasure.
For bringing your team. And thanks for